Good evening and welcome into Crunch Time here on ASTV Productions. I am Wags, joined alongside by my co-host Scott Tobin. Tonight, Joe Hamilton is on location. He is actually at his weekly bowling match, trying to improve on his 140-plus bowling average. And yes, Joe, I got it out there for you. I'm letting people know what your average is. So he is out tonight. Scott is back with me tonight. His game, unfortunately, got canceled tonight, but that's okay because we've got plenty of stuff to talk about, including a pretty dominant St. Louis Blues game that's going on currently as we speak. But we're going to start with baseball. And yes, the Cardinals did not play today, but there's a lot of stuff going down in the world of baseball that we have to talk about here in just a minute. But Scott, man, I got to get your reaction from yesterday because you were down at the ballpark, you were working the game, you were present for that Nolan Arenado home run. What was that atmosphere like when you were down there?
Man, it was a fun day yesterday. No doubt it was great just to see people. And there were a ton of people outside the ballpark. Ballpark Village was packed, especially outside, just people roaming around, sitting at the outdoor, underneath the outdoor video screens, watching the game, listening to music. I mean, it was just a great day to see people out and start to feel like things are getting back to normal. And then the atmosphere in the ballpark was electric, from the very beginning, from the second Here Comes the King music for the Clydesdales. The second they came out of there, that place went crazy. And then with the Hall of Famers and everything, and then the introduction, of the Cardinals and one Brewer. I mean, Colton Wong got almost as big of applause and reaction as anybody yesterday, which was awesome to see. And then, to see him in that first at bat and to see, that he couldn't really bat in that first inning. He said thankfully Waino threw him 4 balls because he couldn't see to actually swing the bat if he had to. That was really cool. And then the Nolan Arenado thing, I mean, you could just feel it coming. When Austin Dean walked, it was like everybody in the ballpark knew it was coming, and you saw that swing. And I texted you and said, I was down the right field line there, right by first base. And we could literally see Nolan's reaction as he was coming down the line and could see him screaming and just his reaction. And it was cool, man. That ballpark sounded like there were 50,000 people in it when he hit that ball. And it was fun, man. Baseball's back. Fans are back. And this team is exciting to watch.
And that's something we haven't been able to really say for the last 4 or 5 years, unfortunately. They've had their moments, but to say that this team fully is an exciting team to watch is pretty damn cool. And we talked a little bit about this last night. Brendan Schaefer from the Post-Dispatch put out a tweet about something that Wainwright said in the postgame about Nolan Arenado, how the last few years he would text or send videos over to Wainwright and say, hey, show Mo what I can do. And it just I talked about it last night. I told you this as well, that I've never seen a player this excited and committed to playing for a specific team than I've seen from Nolan Arenado so far this year. Jumping into the scrap in Cincinnati, the emotion of the home run yesterday. I mean, have you in your lifetime seen a player this intense about playing for a specific team, even one that's not his own hometown team?
Very few this quickly. I mean, Mark McGwire was kind of like that when he first got here in '97. I mean, he immediately embraced it. So a little bit in that same vein as when Matt got here. And, the excitement is kind of the same for Arenado as it was when McGwire got here in '97 because, we were dying for a superstar and they're two of the biggest names in baseball. So you can kind of make a correlation between the two. But, yeah, for him to jump in like he has and just show the excitement, And I think anybody that's been worried about, well, he's going to opt out, he's not going to stay here. I think you can put your mind at ease. No one's not going anywhere. He's going to finish his career wearing that Cardinal uniform, I do believe.
Yeah, I 100% agree that to be the case as well. The fact that he had gotten his very first ever curtain call yesterday, that's another piece that you just go, man, what was Colorado doing with this guy? I mean, I know the fans in Colorado are good fans, but is it just that team was just so bad that there was just no excitement for him to be able to play baseball there?
Well, and that's weird too, because a couple of those teams he was on were pretty good. They made the postseason. So I don't know. I don't think fans are as attached in most cities as they are in St. Louis. I don't think players get curtain calls as often in other places as they do in St. Louis. I mean, that's just shows again the knowledge of the St. Louis baseball fan and their love of the players and the team that some cities just don't have.
I think you're 100% right on that. I mean, there are hardcore fans, there are diehard fans, but there's still something about St. Louis. And I hate to throw out the best fans in baseball spiel because it is a little bit contrived, I think. But we really do have some amazing fans here. They appreciate the players that play here, but they also appreciate baseball and the plays that are made by other players. Once again, going back to Colton Wong, just showing the respect that he earned here in St. Louis, and to give him a standing ovation and to celebrate him as an opponent. We did it with Albert when he came in. We do it with a bunch of those players, and we embrace players that used to be our enemies as well. I mean, you saw that with Will Clark, especially. It just, it's just St. Louis in a nutshell. And I that's why I love being a St. Louisan, and I love being a Cardinal fan, a Blues fan, because it just seems like we have what it takes to be real good fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason in the size market that St. Louis is that we draw over 3 million fans are in the top 3 or 4 every year. I mean, that just shows the love that this city and Cardinal Nation has for this ball club.
That it does. But there are other teams that have fans that rival ours, and today one of those fan bases got to celebrate a championship, and that's LA, the Dodgers. They had championship ring ceremony day today against the Nationals, so you knew that was going to be a win probably. They got their championship rings today, and it was kind of a weird game, and they usually are when you have banner raising ceremonies, ring ceremonies, all those kinds of things. The teams, they have to sit for a little while, so they get a little bit tight after warming up. And it was a 1-0 Dodgers victory. Justin Turner scored the only run with a solo home run. He actually had three of the 4 Dodgers hits today. So not a great offensive game today for both the Dodgers and the Nationals. But was it a long time coming for this Dodgers team to celebrate and get those rings, because they had been in the playoffs and in the World Series so many times in recent years? Were they just happy being able to celebrate, and the win's just icing on the cake today?
I think so. That was a long time coming for them in the city of Los Angeles. We complain when it's been 8 or 9 years since the Cardinals have won a World Series. That was the first one the Dodgers had won since 1988. So, I mean, yeah, it had been a long time in LA. As with all the good teams they've had, they just hadn't been able to do it. So, yeah, it was probably just a culmination. I can't talk. But, just the buildup of all of that. And, the game was kind of secondary today, I think, to the celebration in a lot of ways. And like you said, that happens a lot of times when you see those celebrations happen before a game. The players, by the time the game starts, they're kind of worn out because of all the other stuff that's going on during the day.
That they are. And unfortunately, Major League Baseball is trying to rain on the Dodgers parade as well. Because I don't know if you saw this story about Trevor Bauer. Major League Baseball is probing baseballs this year. They're looking at doctored baseballs, foreign substances, things like that. And they're said to be doing this to multiple pitchers throughout the season, and it's more of a fact-finding mission and all that kind of stuff. But just the other day, Trevor Bauer's name came out as some of the balls that he used earlier this year in his first start were removed from the game and are now being examined. And it's a little odd because this is the only name that's come out so far. Yes, it's still early in the season and more names may come out, but this is, in my mind, something that should be kept kind of confidential if you're just in a fact-finding mission, not really discussing which balls have been removed from play. But I kind of have to side with Trevor Bauer a little bit on this, and I didn't think I'd ever say that. But he's refuting the doctored balls because these are being pulled out after they've been in play. And you look at the other spots where a foreign substance or a scuff mark could get onto a baseball, the catcher's mitt, a foul ball that goes off of something that has pine tar a little bit too high, an outfielder's glove, the dirt. I mean, there are so many other factors where you could see a potential baseball being doctored. I kind of have to agree with Trevor Bauer that this is a little bit of a witch hunt in a sense, because you're not really able to prove that a pitcher is doing this. Yes, you might be able to find ways to work around it, but I just kind of want to get your thoughts on where Major League Baseball is going to be going with this.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing. It's not just Trevor Bauer's balls that they're pulling, and that was his point. You know, he came out and really went after Ken Rosenthal for releasing that and called him basically called him a tabloid journalist and all kinds of stuff today. And I can understand Trevor Bauer being upset because, like he said, other pitchers are having their balls pulled. Why is my name the only one that's being thrown out there in this? And it was supposed to be confidential. So why did his name get leaked? I know he's kind of a lightning rod for controversy. And he was one of the pitchers that went after the Astros and other pitchers and said, hey, you need to be looking at them because I think they're doctoring balls last year. So, it's kind of funny that his name is the one that gets pulled out first. But, I mean, we all know that it's happening. And, I've said this for a long time, and a lot of broadcasters say it, a lot of players say it. I would much rather a pitcher have a substance on the ball so that they can have a grip than have somebody out there throwing a slick baseball 100 miles an hour and not really sure where it's going. Because as a hitter, I mean, you can hit somebody in the a lot of things, bad things can happen if you don't have a grip on a baseball. So I'm okay with it to a certain extent. I mean, I don't want it scuffed. You don't want the nail marks and those kind of things in the ball. But the substance to help a pitcher get a better grip, I'm all right with that.
Well, you talk about to a certain extent, and I still go back, and I know the Cardinals won that World Series, but you go back to Kenny Rogers in that 2006 World Series. Is that an instance that may be too far because it seemed to be egregious, or is that one of those moments where you're like, look, he really is just trying to get a grip. It was cold. It was a little wet. That's just a better way of being able to get a grip on a ball.
It was egregious because it was so obvious. I mean, he was definitely doing it to get a grip because it was a cold, nasty night in Detroit. And there's a reason that Tony didn't make a big scene about it or go complain to Major League Baseball, because more than likely there was somebody in the Cardinal bullpen or one of the Cardinal starters doing the exact same thing. It's just that Kenny Rogers didn't do a very good job of hiding it for national television. And that's when it becomes a big scene is, when you have guys like Michael Pineda with the pine tar all over the back of his neck that you can see, obviously, so, it's just, like I said, it happens in the game. It's happened in the game since the beginning of baseball. Pitchers have found a way to do something to get a grip or to do something. I mean, that's just part of the game, trying to get that competitive advantage. And so as long as it's not egregious where everybody sees it, or like I said, if you actually change the ball by scuffing it, then it becomes a problem. But when it's just a grip thing, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, we had Steve Klein and Julian Tavares for a few years. We kind of know what that looks like. Let's take a look around the league at some of the games that have been finished today. You have the Rays over the Yankees 10-5. Rich Hill, 6 innings pitched, 4 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. Corey Kluber did not look all that great in his 2 1/3. Gave up 3 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, 2 walks. He is coming back from injury, so I'm not too worked up on his first couple starts. Let him get back up into form. But I will say this, the Rays had all but one starter score a run, so they were able to hit around. Gio Urshela also placed on the COVID list after having a reaction to the side effects of the vaccine as well. We think the Rays and Yankees are probably going to be the two teams that are battling out for the AL East this year. Blue Jays might be there as well, potentially. But does this kind of game going up against a Corey Kluber like this maybe give you an edge to Tampa, or do you think the Yankees are going to be able to round out into form?
Yeah, I think the Yankees are just a better ball club. I don't think Tampa's got enough to hang with them this year after the moves they made. But, you look at the standings in the American League East, at least going into this morning, and the Orioles and the Red Sox were 1 and 2 in the American League East. So it just tells you it's the first week in baseball.
That it does. Another game that has gone final, the Giants 3, Rockies 1. Johnny Cueto almost pitched a complete game today, 8 2/3, and earned runs, 7 Ks and a walk. Our friend and former Cardinal Austin Gomber has not had a great start to his Colorado Rockies career. He's 0-2 today. He did go 6 1/3 and only gave up 2 earned runs, but he did walk 4 today. you feel a little bit for Austin because he came from the Cardinals where it's a perpetually winning franchise, and now he's going to Colorado. And even when a day he doesn't pitch in Colorado, he pitches well and still does not get a chance at a victory. It's going to be a long year for Austin, is it not?
I'm afraid it is. That's a big transition, I'm sure, for him from pitching in Busch Stadium to the altitude at Coors Field, and how that affects his off-speed stuff, for one thing. And then, like you said, he pitches pretty well today, and they don't score runs. So, yeah, I'm afraid Austin's probably not thrilled that he's a Colorado Rocky right now.
Unfortunately not. One other game final. Indians 4, Tigers 1. Franmil Reyes 3 for 4 today, 2 home runs and 3 RBIs. We're going to take a quick break here on Crunch Time. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit of hockey. The Blues are in action right now against the Minnesota Wild, and really it's just the Blues in action because they're up 7-1 right now. But we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back for some NHL talk here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And we're back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And I said before the break that the Blues were up 7-1. Well, in just the short span of that commercial, they have now made it 8-1. Jake Wall, actually, you know what? They just changed it to Ryan O'Reilly. Ryan O'Reilly just secured the hat trick tonight by scoring a goal with about 10:17 to go in the third period. Blues leading 8-1. 3 goals by Ryan O'Reilly, 2 goals by Jaden Schwartz, a goal by Justin Falk, Sammy Blais, and Zach Sanford opened the scoring tonight. I tell you what, Scott, I went to the game on Monday night against Vegas, and this team looked piss poor. They could not get out of their zone. They couldn't set up. They couldn't get shots on goal. They just looked like a team that was completely and utterly lost. All of a sudden, Wednesday night rolls around, and it's a completely different team, controlling the pace of play. Yes, the second period wasn't that great, but they got out to an early lead. They held on. Yes, they allowed 50 shots, but Jordan Binnington looks like the Jordan Binnington of 2019. Tonight's game, they were rolling 4 lines consistently. They're preventing Minnesota from getting any chances in the offensive zone. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Mike Hoffman, healthy scratch the last 2 games or what. But this Blues team looks completely different over the last 2 games.
They do. They absolutely do. Let's hope it lasts. I'm kind of like you. I don't know what to say because it came out of nowhere because they did look absolutely awful on Monday. So what changed between Monday and Wednesday that all of a sudden they're playing really well, and then tonight? You just hope that they don't score 8 goals tonight and then we don't score for the next 3 or 4 games, And we see that happen a lot of times in all sports where you have a big game like that where you score a ton and then you don't score for 2 or 3 games, So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we definitely will, and that is the Blues' MO. They do usually go into a shell sometimes after those big games, and they actually did just return the credit back to Jake Wallman on that last goal. So Jake Wallman gets his second goal in as many games, assisted by David Perron and Sammy Blais. This team right now is getting offense from the forwards, the defense, all 4 lines. It's good to see, and it's something that's absolutely needed because right now the Blues are sitting outside of a playoff spot. They are trailing Arizona by 3 points. If they win tonight, they will move to within 1 point, although the Coyotes are playing Vegas tonight, and they usually tend to play Vegas pretty tough. So it's still maybe a 3-point gap after the night is over, but if we get lucky, we could be back within a point of that final playoff spot tonight. Now, this is the other funny thing that kind of came up after Wednesday night's game. So the Blues win Wednesday night. Jordan Binnington's being interviewed by Darren Pang. And at that point in time, the LA Kings are trailing the Arizona Coyotes 3-1. At one point during that interview with Darren Pang, Pang says something to get Binnington to answer. Basically, he says, Binnington goes, "Yeah, we're coming." And it was in that same kind of frame as, do I look nervous? And as soon as he said that, I was like, holy crap. He is locked in. He is somehow switched to 2019 Binnington mode, and it's on. Well, After that, the LA Kings score 3 unanswered goals and win that game against Arizona, which pulls us to within 3 points. And now this team is playing unbelievably tonight. I think we might be going on a run here, and I'm pretty damn excited about that prospect. If you can have a Blues playoff run and Cardinal baseball with the excitement going on right now, all of a sudden the next few months are going to be phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great. And, the Blues are getting healthy, which we've talked about for, ever. It seems like that if this team got healthy, they could potentially make a run. They just had to hang around and be close enough to a playoff push that they could do it when they got healthy. And it seems like they are. I mean, Colton Parayko has looked a little bit better the last couple of nights. So, hopefully this team is healthy and they've suddenly, like you said, that switch has been flipped and maybe we'll see really good hockey now. I mean, that's what everybody in St. Louis is hoping for.
Well, and the trade deadline is coming up on Monday as well. So it's another one of those moments where you go, are they playing better because they don't want to be traded or what? So we're going to have to see what Doug Armstrong has up his sleeve when it comes to the trade deadline. Obviously, once again, Mike Hoffman being sat for the last 2 games, maybe a deal is being worked out with him to let him go to a team where he can play a little bit more because it's not been as consistent here for the Blues as he would like. Although 21 points in 36 games is nothing to sneeze at, but he hasn't been put in a position to succeed. Some other teams in action tonight, and really teams that are fighting for playoff positioning in the East. You had the Penguins at the Devils, the Rangers and Islanders, and the Capitals and Sabres. Yes, the Sabres still do somehow have a hockey team right now, despite only having 9 wins on the year. The Penguins beat the Devils 6-4. Sidney Crosby a goal and 2 assists. Brandon Russ 2 goals and an assist. The Rangers take down the Islanders 4-1. Artemi Panarin 2 assists in his action tonight, and the Capitals beat the Sabres 4-3. Alex Ovechkin gets goal number 726 in his career tonight. Justin Schultz a goal and 2 assists. And what all that means is that at this point in the East, Washington and New York are now tied for first place at 56 points. The Penguins trail by just 2 points. The Boston Bruins are kind of bringing up that last spot, the rear at 48 points, and the Rangers are 5 points back of them with 43. We talked a little bit about this last night, Joe and I. Pittsburgh is kind of sitting there in the weeds, hanging back, letting everybody else kind of battle things out. But they could potentially be a very, very scary team come playoff time. Do you see this being like one of those last hurrahs for the Penguins with that crew that they have there?
It could be. It could be. It could be one of those last runs that they have for a team that's got a lot of talent on it still. They've gotten older and they're definitely not as intimidating as they were a few years ago, but they've still got the ability that, they could get hot and go on a run one more time.
Yeah, they certainly could. And we talked about the fact that they've been able to kind of pump out goaltenders. You had Marc-Andre Fleury, who's playing well in Vegas right now. You got Matt Murray, who's now in Ottawa, won them a couple cups. And now you got Tristan Jarry. So goaltending has worked for them. And they've been able to do that with unsung players, a guy like a Rust or an Aston Reese. They've got guys that step up and play well with the superstars. The big thing for Pittsburgh, I think, is finding some way to get Evgeny Malkin back, if that's possible, because he's going to just add another dimension to that team that's going to make them more three-dimensional when it comes to playoff time, because you need all hands on deck. You need multiple lines scoring when it comes to the playoffs. We talked a little bit last night about the Central as well. Carolina, Tampa Bay, and Florida all at the top of that division as well. Florida's starting to fall off a little bit because of that Aaron Ekblad injury. I still think, like we talked about last night, that they will get into the playoffs. I just think that they're not going to be as high as people thought they were going to be with Ekblad in the lineup. Quenneville is there. Yes, he's done magic work with a lot of different teams, including Chicago. But I think Florida's time is numbered, unfortunately. And I'm actually thinking that this might be Carolina's year to come out of the Central as the team that represents.
Yeah, it could be. And you can't look past Tampa. I mean, they're the defending champs. Do they have one more run in them? Can the Big Rig get another cup? I guess that's the interesting question, right? Wouldn't that be something if he got 3 in a row?
That would be absolutely insane. I mean, you're talking about, it's not going to rival the Montreal Canadiens back in the day when they ended up with 10 straight and guys have rings for every finger. But in this day and age, in the salary cap and all that age, to have a guy be able to win 3 straight Stanley Cups, and two of them with two different teams in back-to-back years, that would be seriously impressive. And it would also show you just once again the importance of having a guy like Pat Maroon on your team. A big body, front of the net, able to screen goaltenders. Yes, he's not the one catalyst that's going to win every single game, but it is a very, very key element of hockey. I mean, that's even in roller hockey, which I play. You screen a goalie by going to the front of the net. You make it difficult for him to see, and goals are easier to be scored. And it's one of those things I don't understand with the Blues. Yes, they're winning by a lot right now, but to not have a guy that is able to kind of take away that line of sight for a goaltender, it just baffles me that more teams don't employ that kind of strategy.
Yeah, I was just thinking it'd be nice to see him, Pat, back in that Blues uniform. The Blues could definitely use that big body in front of the goal that isn't afraid to go in there and go right at the net. That's something that they missed since he's been gone.
They really have, and they've got guys like Braden Shen. You've got a Zach Sanford or a Sammy Blais, but once again, like you said, it's just they don't want to go to the front of the net. They want to look for those pretty goals, those pretty passes, and things like that. So it makes sense why they're not doing it, but it would make more sense if they actually would. A couple other games going on tonight. They haven't started as of yet, but you talked about the Coyotes and the Golden Knights. The Avalanche and the Ducks are underway a little bit later, as well as the Kings and the Sharks. Obviously, the Kings and the Sharks are still in pecking distance when it comes to the playoffs. San Jose sits at 38 points, LA at 36 points, but both those teams have started to cool off just a little bit, and it still seems like it's going to be a race between Arizona and St. Louis for that final spot. Although if Minnesota continues to play the way that they're playing tonight, they may want to watch out for that third spot as well. We thought that they were a big surprise, but can they keep it going the rest of the year is the question.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see if they can keep it up, or if the Blues catch them and pass them, and see how that plays out. And we talked about the Kings kind of being farther back, but the way the Kings play the Blues, that's a team that always scares me anytime we play the Blues. I mean, going back to those really good Kings teams of a few years ago that the Blues just could not handle.
Oh, the playoffs were the worst. The fact that you're up 2-0 after at home, and then you essentially blow it with 4 straight losses. Yeah, I don't like the Kings at all. Thankfully, we're done playing them for the rest of the regular season, or I'd be a little worried. We do have one more game against the Arizona Coyotes coming up this month, so that's another big-time game. Arizona does have one game in hand on us as well, so if they were to lose tonight, it does set the Blues up for having the ability to pass them, because they've got the game in hand and they have one more game against Arizona as well. So as long as they can keep it within a couple of points, I still like the Blues' chances, even though they have one of the toughest schedules in the National Hockey League for the rest of this month. I mean, majority of their games are against Minnesota, Colorado, and Vegas. It's insane and unreal what they have to go through.
Yeah, the schedule makers definitely didn't do them any favors coming down the stretch here. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. So let's hope that, like we said, they flip that switch, because they're going to need to get through this.
That they will. Now, like I said, the trade deadline is coming up here in the next couple of days. Are there any guys that you're looking at that the Blues should maybe look at targeting, or are they even going to be able to make a deal for any impact kind of player?
I don't know. I was thinking about that today. I mean, everybody is assuming that Mike Hoffman, of course, is going to get traded. But then if you're Doug Armstrong, do you do anything else? I mean, I guess if you were going to do something, you'd probably like to bring in a big defenseman if you could find one of those big physical guys. But, I mean, other than that, and I don't even know if you can find one and make it fit with the set salary restrictions that they've got right now. But other than that, I'm not sure that you do anything. You maybe you're just better off to stay pat and see if this team can go on that run.
Well, and I talked about many a times how I thought Vince Dunn was going to be gone by the time the trade deadline rolls around. And as it gets closer and closer, and the way he's kind of been playing the last couple of games, I don't think it's likely. I think the Blues will probably hang on to a guy like Vince Dunn unless somebody blows him absolutely away with a deal. I don't see him going anywhere, because it doesn't feel like the Blues have a lot of faith in Nico Mikkola, which is surprising to me. And right now, Jake Wallman is in the lineup, and if you bring Wallman and Bortuzzo both in the lineup as that third pair, that might be a little suspect. So I think Vince Dunn is probably going to stick around, and I hope he continues to play well because I don't hate Vince Dunn. I just wish would see more development from him. If he can show that he can be more consistent, I'd love for him to stick around. He's a spark plug. He's a guy that'll go out there and get fiery and make some plays, and he's got good offensive mind as well. I just wish I saw more consistency out of Vince Dunn.
Yeah, I mean, that's what everybody's talked about the last couple of years with Vince Dunn, is just being more consistent. And how surprised are you with the Nico Mikola thing? I actually heard his name as a possible guy that the Blues may look to trade because they're apparently that down on him. I mean, how do you go from a guy that everybody was so excited about going into the season, and this could be a big defenseman that could really help this team to, we're not even really letting him play now. I mean, it just seems like guys get in Berube's doghouse really quickly, and then it's really hard for him to get out of it.
I'm shocked by it, but I will say this. I have seen what he's done to guys like Sammy Blais, Jordan Kyrou, and both those guys were essentially on the block last year as well. And now look what they're doing this year. Sammy Blais, not so much, but Jordan Kyrou especially. Honestly, I think this is more so, hey, Mikola, you've had some experience here. You've shown you can hang here, but we need you to do more. So you're going to be in the doghouse this year, but next year, you got a real shot at being here. So I think it's more about getting into his head and saying, look, you're expendable, so work harder. I think that's what it comes down to. So I'm hoping that he takes this and runs with it because I really think Nico Mikola in the lineup is a poor man's Colton Parayko as well. And Colton Parayko is kind of a poor man's Alex Pietrangelo to an extent. So I think he sticks around. Now, speaking, the Golden Knights have jumped out to a 4-0 lead against the Coyotes in the first period. So come on. I don't want to root for Vegas, but come on, Vegas. I really hope that they blow them out tonight as well. All right, coming up next here on Crunch Time, we're going to dive into golf. I know, 2 days in a row. The Masters second round is complete. We'll talk about that, who is leading and who missed the cut. So make sure you come back here on ASTV Productions for more Crunch Time. Back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions. And you know what? We just need to continue to go to a commercial break because every time we go to a commercial break, it seems like the Blues score because it's now 9-1. Ivan Barbashev, a power play goal with just under a minute, about 2 minutes to go in the game. Blues are going to win this one, obviously. But maybe, do we want to go to commercial one more time, see if they score a 10th goal?
Sure, why not? Let's go.
All right, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about golf, and I know it's not something we generally talk about a whole lot because A, I'm terrible at golf, and B, as much as I like golf, I don't know as much as I should about golf, but it is the Masters. It's a harbinger of summer. It's another one of those just great moments in sports, and the second round kicked off today. Justin Rose started the day 7 under par, 4-shot lead, and after a kind of an up and down day, he finished at 7 under par, but he still holds the lead. It is just now a 1-shot lead over his closest competitor, but Justin Rose still holds the lead. He had a 3 over front 9, but he rallied to finish at even par for the day. It's going to be a tough battle because he's got Justin Spieth breathing down his neck. Spieth won for the first time in over 4 years last week at the Valero Texas Open. He is now sitting at 5 under, just a couple shots off the lead. He shot a 4 under 68 today. The Masters, man, it's a spectacle for sure. Tiger's not there, but it's still just a great tournament to watch.
It is. I mean, it's the granddaddy of golf. It's the thing that everybody tunes into to see who gets the green jacket, but it's just not the same without Tiger. I mean, watching professional golf just isn't the same without Tiger. I mean, that's what pretty much anybody in our generation who likes golf or likes to watch golf it's because of Tiger Woods. And when he's not there, it's just hard to really get excited about it. But there are some really good players on the tour. I'd like to see Rory McIlroy find a way to pull out the Masters this year, honestly.
Well, unfortunately, he won't be able to because he missed the cut.
Really?
He missed the cut, as did Brooks Koepka and the defending champion, Dustin Johnson. Dustin Johnson bogeyed 3 of the final 4 holes today, missed the cut by 2 strokes. This is the guy that shot this course at 20 under in the fall last year, but we have to remember it's a completely different course in Atlanta from the fall and into the early spring. So it's not much of a surprise that he wasn't anywhere close to 20 under. He did finish 2 shots off the cut mark. McIlroy had a streak of 10 straight Masters cuts broken as well. And it's, it almost seemed like it was kind of fitting because yesterday he had an errant tee shot hit his dad. So I think once that happened, you're kind of like, this may not be the year for Rory.
Yeah, I guess I should have looked at the leaderboard before we jumped on the show. But, those guys, that'll make it even weirder watching the finals on Sunday that none of those guys are there because those are the biggest names in golf right now. When you talk about Koepka and Dustin Johnson, although Dustin Johnson's doing okay when you think about his girlfriend / fiance / whatever she is. They're going to get married eventually at some point. But he's doing okay.
Yeah, I think he can deal with a weekend home, although he's going to be there on Sunday because he has to present the green jacket to the winner. And as far as Koepka is concerned, it's actually a surprise that he actually played in this tournament because just about a month ago, he had knee surgery for a dislocated kneecap and ligament damage. And he basically said, he goes, if it was any tournament other than the Masters, I wouldn't have even tried it. But he's like, it's the Masters. I have to give it a go. I have to see what I can do. And it looks like he's actually going to take a bunch of time off. He's probably not going to come back until the Players' Championship. So he's going to get back out and rest and get himself ready to go for that one. So it was a surprise to see Koepka out there, but he just kind of had to see where he was at. And I'm not going to blame him for that. Now, you say there's not a lot of intrigue with these guys out. But for me, I am intrigued by it because I really want to see what happens with Jordan Spieth because for a while he was the next hot golfer. He was going to be the next kind of Tiger Woods-ish kind of guy. And then he had his epic just meltdown at a couple of majors. And like I said earlier, he hadn't won in 4 years until last week. So I'm really interested to see what kind of mindset he's in going into potentially being in one of the final 2 pairings going into Sunday. We'll have to see how he does on moving day tomorrow. But I really want to see if he's changed his mindset, if his maturity has increased, if he doesn't have a meltdown like he's had in past majors. That's going to be big for me. And I'm one of those, me, I'm a big story guy. So it may not be the biggest name, but if there's a good story attached to it, I'm going to follow it. And I'm going to follow Jordan Spieth for the next couple of days for sure. Yeah,
that would be a good story if he could win because like you said, he has had some meltdowns in the past that have been brutal to watch, but must-see TV at the same time just to watch a guy just totally fall apart a couple of times. That's just the way people are. They love to watch people at the top, and then they love to watch people fall. But it would be nice. It would be a nice redemption story for him if he could come back and win the Masters. That would be pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it certainly will. He definitely needs a little bit of a rebound for sure, and hopefully this is the year that he gets it. A couple of other guys to kind of take a look at. Will Zalatoris, he's a PGA rookie. He just sits a shot back as well. He's a guy to watch. Obviously, Spieth. Justin Thomas is another guy that I think doesn't get as much pub as he probably should. He's won 14 times on the tour already. He's just 27. And he's a guy that's kind of fluctuated between that 1 spot and that 5 spot in the world. And once again, just doesn't seem to get the publicity that he kind of deserves as being one of the best players out there. He's a couple shots off the lead as well. And he might be a guy that can make a push here on Saturday to make it really, really interesting with Justin Rose.
That would be good too. I'm surprised to hear that he'd won that. Just like to your point, I didn't realize that he had won that many times in the last couple of years. So that's pretty impressive. So, yeah, he will be interesting to watch to see if he can win the Masters or at least be in contention on Sunday.
Yeah, and one more guy, and this is a guy that he's another one. He's a name. You're going to recognize the name, and then you're going to be like, yeah, he's won a bunch of times on the tour. Definitely. Tony Finau. He's 31. How many PGA Tour victories do you think he has on his resume?
Since you said that, I'm going to say 0.
No, it's not 0, but it is just 1. And it came 5 years ago at the Puerto Rico Open. He's one of those guys. He's like almost like Phil Mickelson in a sense. He's always the bridesmaid, never the bride. In a lot of these situations, he's been knocking on the door at the majors the last couple of years. 2 years ago, fired a third round 66 at the Masters to play in the final grouping with Tiger before dropping all the way to 5th. He had a 66 on Friday as well to kind of put himself into contention. He's one of those guys that he kind of deserves a shot at a major championship as well, because he's also been a guy that's dealt with some leg injuries in his career as well. And to have a guy like him get a chance at a major, I think he kind of deserves it.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Those all would be cool stories. Somebody that you don't really think of, like you said, is definitely going to win this year. So any of those guys would be, it would be exciting for him. And, to win the Masters is a once in a lifetime opportunity for most people. So whoever wins it, it's going to be a career defining moment.
that it will. And one final moment from the Masters today. And I don't know how much golf you've had a chance to play, but it's difficult to putt. Okay. Yes, we've all gone mini golfing. We all think we're the king of putt, but get out on a golf course. Putting is definitely difficult. Well, do you think you'd be any better if your putter broke and you had to putt with your 3-wood?
I would probably do about as good as I do with my putter, honestly.
Well, Siwoo Kim had to deal with that over the last couple of holes. He, after an errant putt, he snapped his putter and had to putt with his 3-wood. Luckily for him, he was able to par the hole, and he ended up putting decently well with his 3-wood. If that's the case, if you were to snap your putter in frustration and then putt well with your 3-wood the last couple of holes, if you go to the next round, are you putting a putter back into your bag? Or are you saying, screw it, I'm going 3-wood the rest of the tournament?
No, I'm rooting for this guy because that's exactly what I would do, and I've been pretty close to doing that exact thing with my putter. So yeah, no, go for it, man. Use your 3-wood, keep that putter away, and just see what happens. Roll with it.
That's a great golf pun right there. Oh man, well you definitely have to catch the action tomorrow. The Masters. Obviously, you're getting into now the CBS territory as far as coverage is concerned. So you get the great Jim Nantz calling the next 2 rounds of the Masters. Before we go to break, I have to ask you this. Is Jim Nantz now one of the iconic best announcers going right now? We've had guys in the past, but is Jim Nantz now the guy?
I think he has to be right now. I mean, is there anything that Jim Nantz doesn't call well? I mean, he's just the ultimate pro. He does it all seamlessly. I think he has to be right there at the top.
I 100% agree. I mean, it used to be Al Michaels for sure, and Bob Costas had a claim to it as well. But yeah, I think Jim Nantz, between college basketball, golf, football, I'm sure if you threw him into a hockey rink, he'd be able to call a hockey game as well. So yeah, I think he's definitely one of the, if not most iconic voice right now. And he does great with CBS. And I'd heard that ESPN was trying to lure him away. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think you're going to break up that Nantz-Romo tandem as far as football is concerned. But I don't want to see him go to ESPN either. I really like him on CBS, and I think he fits well there.
Yeah, after all these years at CBS, I can't imagine him leaving. I can't imagine CBS allowing him to leave. I would think they would throw as much money at him as it would take to get him to stay.
Well, and if anybody needs to spend a couple $1 million on a play-by-play guy or a color analyst or a broadcaster of any ilk, I know 2 guys right here that would gladly take some of that money off your hands to talk sports.
Yep. We can throw out our phone numbers and emails and anything anybody needs. If they know of an opportunity, just let us know.
Yep. Definitely let us know. We definitely will do that. All right, we're going to take another break here on Crunch Time. We're going to come back, talk a little football and a little basketball. So make sure you come back here on Crunch Time on ASTV Productions.
Hey Crunch Time fans, my name is Graham Forsyth. I'm the host of Coffee with Graham and the Prospect Show on ASTV Productions. On Coffee with Graham, I talk to athletes, coaches, and whoever else involved in the amateur sports scene in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. And on the Prospect Show, I talk to the best young hockey prospects from around North America. You can catch all the coverage on ASTV Productions. You can catch Coffee with Graham on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10:30 a.m. Central Time. And for the Prospect Show, that show airs every Friday at 8 p.m. Central Time. Hope to see you there. Have a good one.
And as always, make sure you catch those great other shows here on ASTV Productions. And you're going to see more of us coming up here very soon on ASTV, as well as we're getting ready to launch another show coming up on Mondays. We'll have a little bit more as far as details are concerned in the next couple of days as well. And we may have even more stuff coming along as well. So make sure you stick with us so that you can continue the rise of Crunch Time and ASTV Productions for sure. All right, let's get into the NBA here real quick. Another sport we don't get a chance to talk a whole lot about because, we really don't have a team here yet. Yet is the operative word there. Maybe soon we may have one here in St. Louis. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about some of the games that have gone on today. The first one, obviously the closest to us, the Chicago Bulls were in action tonight against the Atlanta Hawks. And Zach LaVine, man, went off in the first half. 39 points, 7 3-pointers in the first half. Bulls built up a pretty big halftime lead. And I know what you're thinking. Big halftime lead. They were able to hold it down, cruise to an easy victory. No, they blew it. They lost 120-108 to the Hawks tonight. How do you spoil a 39-point first half by Zach LaVine, who ended up having a 50-point game? How do you ruin that by losing?
Take your foot off. You get that big lead at halftime, and you take your foot off the gas and think you can coast to that win. And teams start doing that. And the next thing you know, those big leads are gone, and all of a sudden you're looking up, going, "Wait, how are we behind by a couple of points?" And you see it happen more often than you would think.
Yeah, I mean, the Bulls, 33 points in each of the first two quarters, and then they come out of halftime and lay an absolute egg. 18 points in the third quarter. That really kind of drained them. The big problem for the Bulls tonight, though, is the fact that outside of LaVine, Vucevic had 25 points, but everybody else was just terrible. 4 points, 4 points, 0 points, 5 points, 5 points, 4 points. Yes, you got two guys that are going absolutely off, but you also have to have contributions from your bench and from your surrounding teammates. They're lucky. The Bulls are lucky they were even in this game.
Yeah. They rode their two big stars, like you said, but it has to be a team game. It can't just be a one-man or two-man game. It doesn't work most of the time.
And you look at the Hawks, they were led by Trae Young, the star out of Oklahoma, 42 tonight. But here, and this is where the tail of the tape comes down to it. You had Young go for 42, but you had Capella go for 22. You had Gallinari go for 20. Bogdanovich had 10. Herter had 11. So you had multiple guys scoring in double digits, and that right there is the key to being able to win those games, and that's exactly what Atlanta did tonight. Some other games that went on tonight, the Pacers over the Magic, 111-106. Aaron Holiday, 20 points. Domantas Sabonis had 16 points, 15 boards, and 6 assists after a 3-game injury absence. The Pacers get to 24-27 on the year. The two other games that were crazy tonight, the Celtics and T-Wolves and the Knicks and Grizzlies. Both these games went into overtime. The Celtics come out a 145-136 victory over the Timberwolves. They are now over 500 at 27-26. We talked a lot this year about how the Celtics have kind of scuffled along. They're still sitting in a playoff spot right now. They're 9.5 games out of first place. They're obviously not going to catch the Nets, but they have a chance to vault themselves up here over the next couple of games because they only sit a half game out of fourth place. Are the Celtics going to be able to kind of make a push here, and are they going to be okay come playoff time?
Oh, man. The Celtics are a team that you just shake your head and go, this team should be so much better than they are. They've got a ton of talent on that team, but for whatever reason, the last few years they haven't been able to make it click. They haven't lived up to the expectations that they've had. Jason Tatum's even had a pretty down year by his standards this year. I mean, he's still good, but he's not really taking it to that next level that everybody's kind of expected him to. And, Kemba Walker's struggled this year too, not been great. Still a solid player, but, they just have too much talent on that team. They should be able to really take a big step, and they just haven't been able to do it.
And now I know we're seeing a lot of teams being successful. I mean, obviously you're looking at teams like Utah sitting at the top of the Western Conference, Phoenix sitting at the top of the Western Conference as well. But are we seeing any after effects of just the wild and crazy year from last year with different starts and stops, playing outside of the normal time frames, having to deal with COVID, even though they handled the bubble very, very well with the NBA? Are we seeing any effects? And this isn't just limited to the NBA as well. Are we seeing any of that in the NHL or Major League Baseball as well, where maybe teams or players that you thought were going to be better kind of suffered because they got out of their routine and their normalcy, and it's going to take a little while for them to get going again?
I think you see that more in hockey and basketball because, their season ended and then basically they had a very short break before they jumped right back into a new season again. Whereas Major League Baseball at least had their normal offseason and guys were kind of able to get back into some sort of normal routine. But the hockey and basketball guys, like we said, just pretty much jumped right back into a new season, new training camp. So I think we are seeing some of that with them. I think you're seeing some guys that you expected to have better years who's kind of struggled this year because it has been a totally different thing and they're not in their normal routine and they're probably just a little bit worn down at this point.
Yeah, I think you're seeing that a lot, like you said, in basketball and hockey. Other games that went down today, you had we talked a little bit about the overtime game with the Celtics and T-Wolves. The Knicks 133-129 over the Grizzlies in overtime, snapped the Grizzlies' 4-game winning streak. Pelicans 101 over 94 over the 76ers. Games currently in action right now. The Hornets 100 over the Bucks, 81 after 3. Nuggets 96-86 lead over the Spurs with about 10:22 to go in the fourth. Wizards and Warriors approaching halftime. Wizards hold a 41-36 lead, and the Rockets 40-36 lead over the Clippers right now. You look at the Lakers, obviously they are without LeBron James right now. They are now 5th in the Western Conference, and they're not in danger of falling out of the playoff picture, but they are in danger of dropping to about the 7th seed here over the next couple of days, potentially, with some of these games going on. A, do you think LeBron is going to be able to make it back this year? And B, will they be in a position to make a run at all? Because they're going to end up having to go up against a Phoenix or a Utah or maybe even a Clippers team in that first round.
It's going to be tough for them. It's going to be tough. LeBron's missed a ton of time. AD missed a bunch of time. If they're healthy, they're still going to be scary in the playoffs. But it's definitely going to be a tougher run for them this year than it was last year just because of where they're going to end up seeding-wise. So, and not being a LeBron fan, I hope not. I hope they get knocked out in the first round. But, again, if they're healthy, they are going to be scary in that Western Conference when playoff time rolls around.
That they are. And we saw a lot of really, really good playoff games last year in the bubble, and I'm really hoping we see more of that this year. That's kind of our look around the NBA. Now, we've got to give you what is seemingly now becoming a daily update on the DeShaun Watson case. Today, his lawyer came out today, Rusty Hardin, and said that multiple instances of these allegations were actually consensual. Basically, when I read that, I read it as he's saying, yeah, some of this stuff did happen, but it was mutually agreed upon. So does this admission, in a sense, change your perspective of Watson as a person? Or is it just, hey, dude, this is a guy that is living his life, and now it's because he's high profile, things are being thrown at him that may not be true?
Yeah, I mean, again, there's still so much of this that's got to play out. I mean, if some of this was consensual, then it's not even something we should even be talking about. It casts a bad light on the females if that is the case. We saw a judge yesterday tell the women's attorneys that they could refile charges, but they had to release their names if they wanted to file these lawsuits. Again, we heard the whole thing about, they were asking for money before they did anything else. There's a lot of back and forth between the lawyers. I don't even really want to comment at this point because it's just there's so much and it changes from minute to minute. You really don't want to go out one way or another because things can change so drastically with new revelations coming out constantly. So I'm really going to leave it alone at this point and just kind of let it play out.
Yeah, and it looks like 14 of the 22 women are going to be publicly revealed now after the motions that were filed yesterday and were discussed today as well. Potentially, they're going to combine all these cases into one filing as well. It's like you said, with everything kind of coming out minute by minute, it seems like you can't rush to judgment on this one way or the other because somebody is going to be put in a bad light. Someone is going to be viewed differently. And if the flip side turns out to be true, then you've damaged the reputation either of a player and a person, or you've dragged people through the mud that may not have needed to be dragged through the mud. So it is definitely difficult to discuss right now. And hopefully things come to a head quicker than normally happens because this could last a long time. And if this goes into the start of next season, what does that do for the Houston Texans and DeShaun Watson's career? We do have some breaking news. I don't know if you saw this. I just got the alert on my phone. Joe Musgrove has thrown the first Padres no-hitter in franchise's 53-year history. The drought is over in San Diego. A 3-0 victory over the Texas Rangers tonight. Joe Musgrove, he is going in the San Diego Padres record book. The first no-hitter, struck out 10. And here's the thing. He struck out 10. He didn't walk anybody. So unless somebody got hit by a pitch, I'd almost call that a perfect game too, would you not?
Yeah, if he didn't give up a hit or a walk, it would almost have to be. That's kind of weird that they're not calling it a perfect game.
Yeah, so unless something happened, because all I'm seeing on here right now, just perusing the quick stats that are up here, he went 9 innings, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts, no walks. Looking up and down the Texas Rangers lineup, I don't see a hit anywhere on there. I don't see a run, an RBI, a walk. Now, once again, we don't have the full play-by-play in front of us, so we're not entirely sure if maybe somebody got hit by a pitch. But as of right now, it is a no-hitter. And it's everything in here is saying, here it is, right here. Musgrove struck out 10 and walked none. This is according to ESPN, allowing only one Rangers player, Joey Gallo, to reach base on a hit by pitch in the 4th inning. So he was one pitch away from a perfect game for San Diego. But once again, congratulations, Joe Musgrove. Way to go, being the first Padres pitcher in history to throw a no-hitter.
Well, all the moves that the Padres made this offseason, all the pitchers they went and got, would you put any money on the fact that Joe Musgrove would be the one of those guys that would pitch the no-hitter? I mean, it just goes to tell you, you never know what you're going to see in a baseball game.
Very, very true. But I will say there is one person that probably would have bet money on it, and that is our co-host, Joe Hamilton, because he definitely did talk up Joe Musgrove a lot coming into this season. He actually did. He was high on Joe Musgrove. I know you and I both weren't, but he was. So, Joe, hey, props to you, man. You didn't call the no-hitter, but you called Joe Musgrove having some sort of a good season.
And Joe's bullying, so he's going to have no idea that this happened until we tell him whenever we see him next time.
Yeah, he won't, and that's okay. He won't be able to gloat as much. No. We want him to be happy and correct about a lot of things as well. So good job, Joe. And I'm not just talking about Joe Hamilton. We're talking about Joe Musgrove as well. Scott, man, another great show tonight. Any final thoughts before we head out?
Great game by the Blues tonight. Let's hope that we can say the same thing tomorrow. And let's hope that Carlos Martinez follows in the footsteps of Jack Flaherty and Adam Wainwright and goes out tomorrow and has a much better second start. And the Cardinals can expand that winning streak to 5 games tomorrow.
That would be absolutely huge, and I would absolutely love it. Unfortunately, I'll be working, so I won't be able to watch the game. I'll have to catch the replay when I get home. Sunday, I hopefully will be able to watch that one, so we'll see. All right, well for Scott, I am Wags. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure you come back every night at 9 o'clock for another edition of Crunch Time Nightly. Check out our radio show Sundays, 9 to 11 on KYRO, 1280 AM, 105.3 FM, and keep on the Crunch Time page for new announcements coming up here in the next couple of days. Once again, I'm Wags for Scott. Have a great night and enjoy your weekend.